Yep. Here's ready. How's Fred?
9:30, we'll start the meeting. Calling this meeting to order. We start with a moment of reflection. I did want to mention, there's a couple joyous things that happened. There's some birthdays happening, some anniversaries. I think the Reddies had a pretty big anniversary happen last week. We also had a death, sudden death by Martina Rudolph. Very grateful to the family to make the donations to Camp Bimini and to the Kirkton pool. So just remember those as we take a moment of reflection. And we'll move on to confirmation of the agenda. I have a recommendation that the council agenda dated August 5th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Duffield. All those in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. You can declare it now or at any time during the meeting. We will move on to report of closed session. There was no closed session to report on. Now we are now to consent agendas. Would anybody like to see anything pulled in the consent agenda? 6.1 to 6.17, Councillor Markbell?
Consent agenda 6.7, I'd like to support the firefighter certification requirements that are being thrust upon us. So we got a letter in support of South Huron.
Okay. Does anybody want to have any other discussion on that? Maybe we could ask our three fire organizations if they've also had letters or if we'd like to send some support. So, do you want to make that a motion? Does it need a motion? If the consensus of council is fine, but a motion would be good. You like to read that as a motion? Yeah. Okay. Moved by Councillor Markbell, second by Councillor Corview. All those in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Wilhelm.
Yes, I'd like to have 6.5 pulled.
Okay.
Discuss it now if you would like.
Sure.
These are similar letters of concern regarding Severnville subdivision. And I think a written response from mayor on behalf of mayor and council would be appropriate, just to update them in progress and next steps.
I'm fine to do that. I have met with some of them. But we could discuss Severnville all day long, every day long. We still don't actually have certain things in place, so I felt until we had that next step. But I am happy to write something.
Yes, I think it's only appropriate that they receive a response from you on behalf of staff and council.
Okay. Councilor Martin, do we have any update on when phase 3 will be available?
Through the mayor, I have, myself and the team have worked on a draft. We've seen the draft, we've provided our feedback to Azimuth, who I expect will finalize that report. I'd be surprised if it wasn't for the end of the month, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? You don't need a motion at the moment. Anything else being pulled for discussion? Seeing none, I have a recommendation in consent agenda 6.1 to 6.17 with the exception of 6.5 and 6.7 be received for information, and that the regular council minutes of July 8th, 2025 be adopted. Note 5, Councillor Vanessa, seconded by Councillor Corby. All those in favor? Carried. We are at public meetings, hearings, and delegations. We have a report of revision. So we're gonna move on to that, we're in the special paperwork. So if you could read that statement first. The tender results for this drain project will be released at the close of the quarter revision if no appeals have been received. This motion. Okay, like the members, so the recommendation that the Councilors Township of Perth South hereby does appoint the following members to sit with quarter revision for the Hepburn Drain Branch A, Councillor Jamie Martin, Councillor Mark Bell, and Councillor Sam Corby. Move by Councillor Jeff Bell, second by Councillor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, the council does recess at 9:35 AM in order to hold a quarter revision for the Hepburn Drain Branch A. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Corview. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay. I'm going to just circulate. Oh. Martin, if you would read yours, please.
Jamie Martin, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear, favor, or partiality, honestly decide the appeals to the quarter revision from the assessments appearing in the provisional bylaw entitled Hepburn Dray Branch A that may be brought before me for trial as a member of such court.
Thank you, Councillor Mark Bell.
I, Mark Bell, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear, favor, or partiality, honestly decide the appeals to the court revision. The assessments appearing in the provisional bylaws entitled the Hepburn Drain Branch A that may be brought before me for a trial as a member of such court.
Thank you, Councillor Corby.
I, Sam Corview, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear of partiality, favor, or partiality, honestly decide appeals to the quarter revision from the assessments appearing provisional bylaw entitled the Hepburn Drain Branch A that may be brought before me for trial as a member of such court.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Chair Martin.
Yeah. So we'll call to order the quarter revision. This refers to the municipal drain Hepburn Dray Branch A engineer report dated June 12th, 2025, and the engineer's Spirit Associates. If we can ask the engineer to briefly outline the nature of the proposed drainage works and the related assessment schedule.
So today we have Hepburn Drain Branch A. This was the drain we were appointed on in May. Report is issued in June 12th, as you mentioned. It's approximately 1 kilometer, 21-inch pipe located in the area of line 14, road 134. The estimated project cost is approximately $178,000. As this is just one section, there's one assessment schedule as shown on page 8. This drain was upsized to a 2-inch, so that's what the non-grantable is referring to, but other than that, this one's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Have any written comments or objections been received?
No comments.
If anyone in attendance wishes to make comments or ask questions concerning the proposed assessment schedule. Would any members of the court like to comment or have discussion on this?
Okay, so then you can
Just read this one.
Perfect. You're going to do it now.
Yeah. Okay, the Court of Revision for the Hepburn Dray Branch A does hereby accept the recommendations of Grandin Winder Spirit Associates, and further does hereby confirm the drainage assessments as outlined in the assessment schedule dated June 12th, 2025.
Yeah.
Mover? Yeah. Seconder? All in favor? And then. I don't know if you're that. Oh, that the Court of Revision for the Hepburn Dray does hereby adjourn at 9:39 AM. Thank you.
Thank you. So back to council, the council accepts the recommendation for Brandon Winder of Stevens Estates. So before we do that, I do have the letter that Brandon prepared With the results. Okay. Oh, I'm down for you. I need the extra. So then Brandon can speak to them. Sure. Didn't mean to jump ahead there, Brandon. George, yes.
Or, yeah, so this project that closed last Friday, August 1st, we did receive 7 bids. So the estimated cost of this work was 129,600, so that was the estimated construction. A number of bids are below that estimate, a couple are above, but the low bid is the John Excavating at 104,991,050 or 991.50 cents. So that is a low bid. It is noted that on the low bid, he will complete this project this fall, so in October. That being said, we did not have a completion date on this project, but the low bidder does have a date of October 15th. So I believe the second place bidder, can correct me, is also, I believe, October or November 1st. Typically, I only receive the 2 lowest bidders from staff, so I haven't reviewed the next 5, but those are the results. We'll have it closed at on Friday.
Does any member of council have a question for Brandon? Councilor Markfeld?
Are you happy with that?
They would have just discovered this
Okay. Just as we are.
momentarily. To be honest, when you look at the Coddington property, so Nick's bid is approximately 80% of the estimate, or 81%. We do have contingency built in the job, but if you look at the Coddington property, her assessment will drop approximately $10,000. She is the largest. When you get into there's a, I guess Mr. Reddy's here, his will drop approximately 7,000. Based on what we have right now. No, this is a very competitive bid. Robinsons are also very competitive, and we have Hannah's. Everyone's very close here.
I was more referring, I mean, money's great, but I was more referring to the schedule.
Oh, well, I can't get it any tighter.
No, that's fine.
Let's just say, me and your purchasing department, which is, I know that. We tendered it without a date.
Right.
The issue was. We try to expedite things in first, so I send all the tender documents before we have these meetings. We leave the date blank. It got tendered that way. Regardless, Nick has indicated he'll complete it this fall now. Conveniently, I believe Nick is their neighbors, so I'm gonna say they can all figure that out together. I believe he knows all of the owners on the ring.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, I have a recommendation that the council accepts the recommendation from Brandon Widner of Street Associates and awards the tender for the Hepburn Drain Plant to DeYoung Excavating $104,991.50. Moved by Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to 7.2, the Ontario Clean Water Agency. The 2025 first quarter operation report. Inspection reports. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Good morning, your worship, members of council, members of staff. Today I will be presenting the Ministry of the Environment special reports in the first quarter operation reports for the Perth South water systems. For the inspection reports, Black Creek Sebringville received a 91.88% rating for this inspection period. The 2 non-compliances mentioned being the paperwork for the annual UV reference sensor calibrations was incomplete. However, the work was done. And there were 2 weeks where the second chlorine residual necessary was not reported, although the samples were taken. This is a paperwork issue. It is on our end. We have put measures in place to correct this moving forward. It should not happen again. St. Paul's received a 97.18 rating for this inspection period. The outstanding non-compliance was the same incomplete paperwork that you see Ringville for the UV system maintenance. We have the same new checks with the balances for those, that paperwork as well, so it should not happen again. The comments from last year's report about the well in St. Paul's have not yet been addressed, as the well has not been serviced or replaced, so they are still in effect. Those comments were that the height that the well sticks up above the ground is slightly less than the 0.4 meters that's required, and that the well is in less than perfect condition, but I understand that you guys are moving forward with it. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys had about the annual report from 2024.
Any questions for Anton? Councilor Martin?
Are there fines associated with these non-compliance?
It would be a bigger thing, like there would definitely be like some sort of investigation if there was gonna be fines involved, and you would definitely have heard about it. These are not minor, but they're, what happens is when you go through the inspection, the inspector has, a series of questions, and they are simply yes or no questions. So, he says, or she says, was the chlorine residual recorded at all points during the calendar year? It's either yes or a no, right? So once you've crossed that, you lose that on that section, and then depending on the severity of the outcome, they can choose to investigate it. If you have a reason and they accept it, then that's as far as it goes.
Any other questions, Councilor Vanessa?
Just a question for the Seamanville water system, and I guess the creek also. What percentage of water that they're allowed to take in aquifer are they actually using at this point?
So that's a good question. Yes, I do. And I'm glad you brought that up. So the last number that we had for this was 6%. That was last year's final number, but that is based on the permit to take water and the rating at 3.6 some odd liters per second. The well itself is
Both wells or just? Which is
no, that's for Sebring.
so, okay.
So the well itself will not put out that much water. It's putting out about 2.3 liters per second. So it's that 6% is a function of how much you can get over 24 hours at that rate. It is not how much you can actually make with the current equipment. Right? So as more people put in pools and then just kind of fill them at night, and as more people put in irrigation systems and they fill them at night, you will see that the well simply turns on and you break even for a long time. It will not cycle on and off as it normally does, right? It'll just keep making water as these people use more water.
So does it possibly exist to put a different pump in that one?
Yeah. Yes, but there would have to be some adjustments made to,
Treatment, I assume.
yeah, that's it. Because, the chlorine pumps that are there, they pump the chlorine into the main against the head pressure that the well generates. So with a well pump making more pressure and more flow, you would have to adjust it. That's why every cycle you will see the chlorine go up a little bit, and you'll see it come down a little bit. So
And you may need more retention time also.
it's because UV disinfection is the primary disinfection for these systems. There is no contact time for UV. The chlorine is strictly secondary disinfection, so we would have to maintain a certain amount. We have a piece of pipe that's a certain length, and it's calculated to be cut at that length so that as we're feeding water through it, by the time it gets to the chlorine analyzer, we have a certain amount of time built into it. So we kind of know what it should be out in the system. We should not have to Sometimes you'll have to put in like a twin main. Just to slow the water down and keep it back and things like that. I don't think that's necessary, but that would be. When we go to upgrade the system, there would be an engineer definitely involved to figure that out.
Excellent, thank you. Do you know the capacity of the St. Paul system?
It's almost the same, 3.6, but the total usage, the last number I had was about 10%.
Excellent, thank you.
Again, that's just the equipment.
Yeah, no.
That was just the well rating, not the equipment. Okay, thank you. So if there's no other questions about that, there was an external audit done. As required every 3 years. The result, it was determined that the management system is effectively implemented and maintained and meets the requirements of the standard relative to the scope of certification identified in the report. A recommendation for continued certification will be submitted to SII Global Review Team. No non-compliances were identified for that. So for the operational summary, there were two chlorine alarms that were identified. One adverse water quality incident, which resulted in a precautionary boil water advisory issued by the local public health authority. In Sebringville on January 22nd, online trending showed chlorine residuals dropping below the low alarm set point before returning to normal levels. A second event occurred on March 22nd. Chlorine residuals increased above the high alarm set point before returning to normal levels. No alarms were received for that incident, the second one. The alarms were tested and have worked on all occasions since then. We suspect this is because the data logger that was on site in Sebringville was failing. It has already been replaced. So the alarms are generated by the chlorine analyzer itself. So if we see trends that go up or down, that could be signal interference between the chlorine analyzer and the data logger itself. That should not happen again as we replace the thing. For St. Paul's, there was an extended loss of pressure on March 10th, which resulted in the Huron Perth Public Health Unit issuing a precautionary boil water advisory, which was lifted after receiving 2 clear results for bacteria analysis more than 24 hours apart. So those were the only incidents that really came up. Is there any questions about the operational summary for the first quarter?
Just about the first quarter. Any questions? Nope, seeing none.
Okay. Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask me at this point?
I just wonder if you could speak to the recent water outage in Sebringville.
Yeah, so when I started in 2023, there was a chlorine smell in the pump house, which is actually like a vapor. The seal on the chlorine, it's actually, we say chlorine, but it's sodium hypochlorite. It's just strong bleach. The seal on that tank was not completely effective. When you walk into a pump house and you can feel it in your eyes sting a little bit, and you get that your sinuses kind of hurt a little bit, you know that's a vapor that's actually in the air. That chlorine, when it comes into contact with anything metal, is going to oxidize it. Unfortunately, you can't predict when things are going to fail when they've been touched by chlorine like that. So some of these things that we've been replacing as it goes along have been part of that. So we've already replaced the data logger. Ken has replaced the touchpad for the door alarm. We have a new transducer in, like pressure transmitter, that has to be replaced. And then some of the failures that have happened recently were the pressure switch, which I'm sure most of you, this is a rural community, almost everybody who's got a well has got a pressure switch. I'm sure you all know what it is. When it fails, the well just simply didn't come on. So we turned the switch into manual, came on, we put it back in auto, seems to be working. We bought a new pressure switch, the new one failed straight out of the box. So I haven't really seen that before, you know, putting pressure switches in, usually right out of the box, you get a couple of years of flawless service out of them, but that was part of it. And There was a UV system failure where we went out to replace the reference sensor and we wound up having to take the whole thing apart. The well in Sebringville is starting to produce small stones. So if you took a grain of rice and you cut it in half, that's about the size of the rock that's starting to show up. There's a flow restrictor in these UV systems to make sure that you can't get less than the proper dose. So this dose is calculated to make sure that it kills or inactivates all the pathogens that are in the water. So it will not flow above that limit. If you get a few rocks in there, it doesn't flow much at all. So we wind up having to take the thing apart, you take it off the wall, you get the thing out, get these little stones out. I've already talked to Ken, we will probably have to camera that well and see where the stones are coming from. So that's it. It's mechanical failure as far as we can tell, no other issues. Yeah, we're moving forward, trying to figure out essentially all the issues. Sometimes when you get there, it's like when you take your car to the mechanic, you say it was making a noise yesterday. Now it's working perfectly. You just watch the well cycle on and off, on and off, on and off, and you're like, why didn't it turn on? So eventually we replaced everything that we could think of that it would be. We replaced the pressure switch, the selector switch, the relay on the well protection and control panel, and there was one other thing. And we were just like, it could be any one of these things failing, and it would become more and more. We just replaced all four of them. So it should not happen again. It will be a new issue if something else happens. Sorry.
No, that's
Sorry.
Good. We have the proper phone number if it does go down that people can reach out.
I think so. I think we did get some calls last time, but several of the residents, I think, phoned whoever they could think of.
Yes.
So we did get phone calls from the health unit and yourselves again. So I know it's frustrating, you want answers, especially in the middle of the night, you have no water.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on site, we were dealing with it.
Yeah.
We had an electrician on staff, we had the spare parts because we had ordered them when the first failure happened. So, yeah.
All good, within the hour, I think it was back up.
Yeah, it would have been nice to replace it as it had failed, but we didn't have all of the parts. So then it just happened to happen on a Sunday. And we got the electrician in, replaced everything. So it's back on now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Anton? Just pointing out page 144 from the Ministry of Environmental Conservation and Parks. They do recommend that we take a copy of this inspection report and review its findings just for councilors. So I've asked them for a copy. If anybody else wants to have a copy, please let her know. Great, thank you for
Okay.
keeping up. Great job.
Thank you.
I have a recommendation that the council receive the 2025 first quarter operation report for the Stephenville and St. Paul's water drinking systems and the Kirkton Woodham small drinking water system for information. And further, that council be received the 2025 inspection reports for the Stephenville and St. Paul's drinking water systems for information. Moved by Councilor Marfell, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. All right, thank you, Anton.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on to 7.3, the committee of adjustment, minor variance. All right, we are reconvening. The committee of adjustment will now reconvene the public hearing to consider a minor variance application, which was deferred from the July 8th meeting. The application is for the property currently owned by Patron Farms, CO Ron Patlaters. The application number is A03-2025 and the property is lot 14, concession 11, Downing Ward 3649, line 9. And this is a hearing for the opportunity for the township to advise the public and the purpose of the intent of the minor variance and receive their input prior to making a decision. we have Haley come up. Okay, Haley. I'm advising that any person present who wishes to receive written notice decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. Does anybody want written notice?
We have, from the last meeting, we have Cheryl and Mike Willen as, requesting written notice, so if anyone else would like to help.
Cheapers, I'm sorry. All right, so no written notice except as previously noted is given unless requested at this time. And I'm advising that all persons attending this hearing will be given the opportunity to be heard or to make a presentation. So I'll now call on the county planner to present the planning report and the recommendations.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Councilors. I will be presenting minor variance application A03-2025 for land municipally known as 3649 Line 9 in the Township of Perth. The subject application was previously considered by the Committee of Adjustment on July 8, 2025, where it was deferred to allow applicant to meet with staff and provide additional information if any. Staff have not changed their recommendation and continue to support the proposed reduction to facilitate the construction of the gilt barn. The subject lands are approximately 40.01 hectares in total lot area and contain a single detached dwelling, a livestock barn which houses 2,500 feeder swine, 9 grain bins, and an equipment storage shed. The subject lands are serviced by private well and septic, and the proposed construction of the new barn will hold 1,750 gilts. Next slide, please. The application is requesting relief from section 6.4.1 of the Township of Perth zoning bylaw to facilitate the construction of a 2,741 square meter gilt barn. The required MDS2 setback between the proposed barn and the nearest neighboring type B land use located at 3636 line 9 will be approximately 357.83 meters rather than the required setback of 444.39 meters. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed location of the barn represents an efficient use of land, minimizing the amount of agricultural land that would be otherwise taken out of production. By locating the barn closer to the existing infrastructure, the applicant is also preventing the further fragmentation of prime agricultural lands, which is a key priority in land use planning. It also allows the applicant to utilize the existing built area where the driveway, hydro, and private water are already present. Next slide, please. Currently, the subject property contains a pig barn, with approximately 2,500 swine, and the impacts of adding another barn in proximity to the first are unlikely to introduce new significant adverse effects. The location is already appropriate for agricultural use, with the potential for odor, noise, and other impacts having already been established by the existing barn and farm operation. As such, this additional barn is not expected to introduce new unanticipated issues for the surrounding area. In terms of surrounding land use, the area remains predominantly agriculture, and the proposed variance aligns with the intent to support agricultural growth and sustainability within this context. The general intent of the MDS guidelines is to reduce conflicts between agricultural operations and residential or other sensitive uses, and the applicant's proposal to build the barn closer to existing agricultural structures does not pose a new risk to health or safety of the surrounding area. Next slide, please. Although concerns have been raised regarding the potential smells from the barn, it is important to highlight that the applicant has already made significant efforts to mitigate such impacts. The previous barns were relocated away from the residents to help manage odor, and proposed new barn will be in the same area, continuing to build upon the previous efforts. The applicant is committed to adhering to all relevant environmental standards to ensure that nuisance impacts, including odor, are minimized as much as possible. Further, it is important to recognize that the operational challenges that come with the phased construction of the barn. The applicant is currently permitted to construct half of the barn with no impacts on MDS2. In 3 years, the applicant is permitted to construct the other half of the barn as a credit will be applied through the AgriSuite software, permitting the applicant to have the whole barn with no effect on the noted MDS2. Building the barn in phases would not only delay the expansion of their operations, but also require additional time and resources to construct the second half in 3 years, disrupting operational efficiency and costing the applicant more in terms of labor and materials, potential missed opportunities for agricultural productivity. Determining whether or not a minor variance request is considered minor is based on review of the merits of the application from both a qualitative and quantitative perspective. A variance may be considered minor where the scale of the request is marginal and the proposed relief will not result in greater than minor adverse impacts on adjacent properties, uses, or area. In many zoning and land use regulations, minor relief is a category used for deviations that do not fundamentally alter the character of the area or create significant youth impacts. The application's intent to use existing infrastructure in a built-up area that already has a livestock use established supports the classification of minor relief. In light of the foregoing, planning staff recommend approval of minor variance application MV 3-2025. The proposed change is considered to be minor in nature, appropriate for the development and use of the land, and aligns with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan pursuant to section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Haley. I think we'll continue down the script and then there'll be questions, in the committee meeting at the end. Okay, so we'll continue with the rest of the meeting because I think there's some others that want to comment as well. Councilor Vanessa, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, but Tom, there's been some question about the suitability to sit on this committee. I freely admit that Patsy Wooders is my sister. But I also have absolutely no pecuniary interest in Patron Farms. I do not have any shares. I'm not on the board of directors. In fact, I'm sure the neighbors sitting here know far more what happens at Patron Farms than I do. So I will not be declaring pecuniary interest. I have no, I do believe I have no sway over the rest of council, and I will not declare that interest.
That's your decision and
That is
thank
my
you for,
position.
thank you for clarifying. All right, I'm gonna ask the Secretary Treasurer to provide any comments received from the stipulated agencies and then.
Thank you, Chair Orr. The comments that were received were included in the package, the agenda package. And yeah, there were no additional comments received.
Did either of you want your letters for us to speak them out? For us to say them? They were in the package, okay. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? And I request to give their name and address for the record when they are recognized. Anybody like to speak up?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, come. Any name?
Robert Scriven, and I'm counsel for Cheryl Van Dam. Would you like an address? Like, it was on my letterhead that I sent in, so.
No,
No, that's great. Your worship, counselors, staff, thank you very much for allowing myself and then ultimately Scott Patterson to make a delegation to you in opposition of this minor variance. When I make presentations like this, I want to be very clear that we are here to provide information, not confrontation. My entire career is built on working for farmers in the agricultural community. So I want to make a few points, very preliminary points. First is I hope everyone got my July 30th letter that I sent in late last week. Great. So I'm going to mirror those comments. First, in my experience with MDS 1 and 2, particularly before the Normal Farm Practices Board, it is a strict adherence to MDS. And I've been on the other side of that. And but the trend in the case law, the trend from the Normal Farm Practices Board is you might be able to shave away 1, 2, maybe 3%, but then also have some mitigation practices, planting trees, odor products, a time of use, that sort of thing. So in my respectful submission, the NDS is designed for a specific purpose. And in that specific purpose, we have Ms. Van Dam's July 7th letter where she talks about significant impairment on her enjoyment of her property, odor, noise, not being able to go outside at certain times. It is the perfect case for normal farm practices board determination. In fact, there's been a recent decision in Benson v. Decker, in which I'm involved after the fact. But in that case, the normal farm practices board determined that there was not a minor variance, almost on the same type of arithmetic, and now the municipality has become liable for moving a manure tank. That's going before the court this month, as I'm acting for the Deckers. This is not pounding on the table to say liability exists everywhere. It's simply to say that the pendulum has swung from minor variances being permitted, and now we have really strong case law and really strong examples where minor variances amounting this percentage, and I haven't worked it out, but it's about 20 or 25%, just doesn't pass the test anymore. The second point, and I'll make it briefly, is I question, and I'm not calling anyone out for inaccuracies, but when one looks at the plan, it's referred to as a finishing barn. And I'm not aware, I'm certainly not an expert in pigs, but having worked only in the agricultural community, having a gilt barn 53.84 feet away from a finishing barn doesn't make sense to me. But again, I'm not a pig farmer. It raises issues of biosecurity, and I would urge the council to consider the inference that this would ultimately be given finishing gilt barn. That has an impact on the MDS calculations. So in my very brief conclusion, I see this as a creative attempt to double finishing capacity. I do not see it as a minor variance. I see it as a significant variance from the planning considerations, what Mr. Patterson will speak to. And on behalf of Ms. Van Dam, I'm strongly urging council to deny the minor variance. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to field any questions after all the delegations have been done, if something should arise. But again, I'm here to provide information and not confrontation. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, did you want?
Good morning, committee and staff. Thank you for the opportunity this morning. My name is Scott Patterson. I'm with Patterson Planning Consultants. Attending on behalf of Ms. Cheryl Van Dam, who is the neighbor directly across the road from this proposed hog facility. Ms. Van Dam's residence is a reason why this minor variance is necessary. I trust the committee as well is in receipt of a letter I prepared and submitted at the end of last week, noting my reasons supporting her objections to this proposal. Similar to Mr. Scriven, we did not plan this. I just wanted to note that I have been a development planner for 28 years. I am pro-development in all aspects. Some of you have seen me before Perth County Council. I am very pro-development. And I can count on one hand the amount of times that I have accepted a request to object to someone's development proposal. So I don't take this lightly. I'm not here just because I've been retained to be. I do review the documentation and appear before people believing in what I say. I completed a review of the proposal on behalf of Ms. Van Dam, and from a planning perspective, I see no reason why this committee should support a minor variance to reduce the MDS2 setback by 86 meters, being 284 feet, and impact Ms. Van Dam going forward. The province has stated that the requirements of MDS shall be followed. Shall is used when the goal is to make sure that it happens. Similarly, the Perth County official plan also uses the word shall and directs that MDS is to be followed. The township zoning bylaw states in section 6.4.1 that livestock facilities shall comply with the minimum distance separation formula 2. Further, the township zoning bylaw under section 4.5.1 clearly notes that in this bylaw, the word shall is to be considered to mean mandatory. I have not seen or read any justification for why our mandatory requirement of the bylaw should be deviated from to this extent. 284 feet is a proposed reduction, which is quite significant. The MDS separation guideline document also provides direction on the implementation of MDS 2 setbacks. It is clearly noted that they are only to be reduced in limited site-specific circumstances that meet the intent of the MDS document. While Mafra does not support or encourage reductions to MDS setbacks, as doing so can lead to the potential for land use conflicts. I am here today because of the potential for such conflicts to occur and questioning why this minor variance would be appropriate in this instance. There's ample land area on this property for the building to be constructed in a manner that will conform to the MDS setback requirements. There also appears to be some discrepancy, as Mr. Scriven had noted, about the nature of this building to be proposed. It is being suggested as a gilt barn, which allows the proponent to utilize a reduced MDS setback as the basis for their application. However, industry practice due to biosecurity concerns would suggest that a gilt barn would never be constructed immediately adjacent to a finishing barn or connected to another barn that was not used for gilts. The committee should be very clear in the intended use of this building and request confirmation before considering granting to such proposal. Before moving forward with granting a variance, the committee must also consider the 4 tests of minor variance. Those include, does the proposed reduction meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Does the proposal meet the general intent and purpose of the bylaw? Is the variance minor in nature? Does the variance result in the appropriate development of the lands? When all of the applicable documents use the word shall and clearly suggest that deviating from MDS 2 requirements should not occur, I truly question how this in any way can be supported. As I noted in my letter, the burden falls to the proponent to justify that this variance is minor and appropriate. It is my opinion that the applicant has failed to do so, and with the applicant's position failing to rise above the objections of Ms. Van Tam, the application must therefore fail. I also noted in my letter that in order for a minor variance to advance, it must meet all of the 4 tests. So if committee finds fault in any one of those tests that I mentioned, then the application must fail. This will have a long-term impact on the neighboring property owner. I don't believe it should be supported. It's my professional planning opinion that it should not. There's ample room on this property to build the barn in a location that will meet the setback requirement. And with that, I would ask committee to refuse the application. The reason I think you'll see such a strong effort here today with Mr. Scriven and myself is that the appeal rights for such minor variances have been removed. So before, if a committee were to grant such an approval, our logical next step would be to file an appeal. That ability is gone. So that's why you see me sitting here today. That's why you see Mr. Scriven. So this impact of this decision does have a major impact. I hope the committee takes into account the letter that has been prepared and the reasoning behind it. And with that, I'll answer any questions from committee that you may have.
Any questions? Councilor Gordon?
Nobody has spoke to the fact that if this gets turned down, we can build half a barn and build the other half. Like, yes, I don't see where this is destined to fail just because you can do that. So, and the fact that it would be easy to move the barn back and then sure, we're eating up some agricultural land, but if they move the barn back, then there's no issue at all. There's 2 things there, but the first is if we turn it down, he's gonna build half a barn and then build the other half.
Councilor Kirby, these are also questions just for Mr. Patterson at this current time.
Oh, okay.
So,
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I agree, and that's been brought to my attention. I think it was noted in the presentation that half the barn could be built today. We recognize that. That was talked about when I met with my client about this issue. I guess the bigger question for me is this a gilt barn? I was not aware that a gilt barn could be constructed in proximity to a finishing barn like this. I called someone who worked in the industry for 45 years and asked them, and they said, this is highly irregular, we just don't see this. So as Mr. Scriven had noted, I am questioning sincerely whether the numbers are being fudged to make this happen. And that's a question for your building department, that's a question for the township in general, but and I'm not an expert in things, so I had to qualify that by calling someone. I do recognize the barn can be built today, but I'm questioning is the minor variance for the stock logical. Whether it's a built barn or a commissioned barn, it should not be in this location.
Any other questions, Ms. Patterson? If not, I'll move forward. Is there anyone present by video conference who wishes to make a presentation to speak in support of the application, other than the applicant agent, and I request they give their name and address for the record when they are recognized. Anybody want to speak in support of it? Not happy. All right, does the applicant or agent have any comments in respect to the application? I don't see Ron or Pat here, so. There's nobody else. Okay, and now are there any questions for the committee members towards our county planning? Deputy Mayor, or would Mr. Vanessa like to go first?
No.
Well, no.
I'll start. Yes, I guess I have a couple questions to start. Is there any guarantees that this will be a go for?
So sorry, can I answer?
Yes.
Through the chair, Martin and I have discussed that an MBS, nutrient management study has been submitted to the province for review. And I believe on the 4th page, it does state that it is about a goat farm. So Martin can speak more to it, but that has been identified, if I can speak to that.
The building department has received an approved nutrient management strategy for the site. Under regulation 26703, under the Nutrient Management Act, it clearly states that the barn is a field barn.
Thank you. Next question, if the barn was moved back to meet MBS requirements, any idea how much agricultural land would be taken out of production to meet that requirement?
Through the chair, that has not been identified due to the proposal being in front of us for the location as is right now. We would have to determine how far they would put the driveway back there, what services they would need. I'm not sure at this time.
So just to clarify, really this application is about relief for the time frame of when he will build the entire barn. He currently has the ability to build half the barn right now, and in 3 years' time, logically, they would build the rest of the barn. So that could happen regardless. So that is what we're discussing right now, just so I'm clear with councillors. Any, Councillor Markbell?
Back to the first point that, Deputy Mayor welcomed me, is there anyone that leases that? Like, besides the fact there's a nutrient management plan? Is there the organization to go out and police that, that's what's happening?
Through the chair, through the building department, they would be determining that through the management study and the building permit process.
So we would,
Through the chair. Do you mean after 3 years?
yeah,
Yeah, so that would be simply through the building department. It would not come back another application.
Councillor Jeffbell?
So has there, throughout this process, has there been any thought of, or any potential change to the location, or has this always been the preferred location?
Through the chair, we technically cannot tell them to move. They can request the minor variance, and that's exactly what they're doing, so we can't ask them to do that if that's not what their preference is to do.
Any other questions? Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Not a question, but I'd like to make a comment. My personal opinion is that they've already got hog operation ongoing and going to continue. And, that, this barn will be built, whether it's one stage or two. And to me, it makes more, sense to build the barn in one stage and, allow his efficiencies and reduce the costs. And to move it back, take farmland out of production, which I don't like to see. And as far as biosecurity, I think that's up to the property owner. That's up, if he feels he can operate the goat barn that close, then that's up to him. He would be the individual that would suffer the consequences, I'm sure. And so I think that I know it's going to upset some people, but I will be voting in favor of this.
Any other questions? I should clarify that as the committee of adjustment, we do have to have a legal reason to go against the planning decision, and we would have to hire our own lawyer if it was taken, if the Veteran Farms came back home.
Do I understand, well, also if we agree to a minor variance that is, then it goes to court, we would also be liable.
I do not believe, go ahead.
Through the chair, it would be if the applicant themselves was to appeal it. No outside third parties can appeal the minor variance application. So if you were to refuse it, only the applicant can take it to the OLT. Or if you approve it, they would have to appeal the approval, which I don't believe they would want to do. The neighboring property owners cannot appeal the application.
They have no,
Right. That was established in 2022.
not so much though.
Just wanna understand, so all four of the things we talked about need to be agreed upon. So for us to think it's minor in nature, that would be one of the four. For me, it's not minor in nature, it's almost 300 feet, so, I just think if it's, is that subjective, so we believe, or not believe, or someone believes that it's minor in nature, so then reliable, is that how I understand it?
Through the chair, everybody's interpretation of minor is different. So yes, if you believe that it's not minor, you can argue that.
I'm gonna wind back to, we are just discussing the relief of the 3 years.
Technically,
Dr. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think that's, I just want to clarify, again, if this was built half size, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
through the
And
chair.
then 3 years later, the other half gets built. And it would never be what it was.
Through the chair, yes, if they decided to do that, they wouldn't be here today.
Councilor Martin, would you like to make comment? No? Anyone else? All right, so I'll move to the committee will now consider a resolution regarding the application. So I do have a recommendation here in front of me that the Township of Perth Committee of Adjustment approve application file MD 3-2025 submitted by Patron Farms for lands described as concession 11, lot 14, Gore municipality is 364999 as it relates to one, relief from section 6.4.1 to reduce the minimum distance setback to requirement from 444.39 meters to 357.83 meters to facilitate the construction of a 2,745 meters squared gilt barn subject to the following conditions. One, that the minor variance only applies to the proposal as applied for, and two, the owner obtained the necessary building permits within 2-year approval of the minor variance. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wellno. Second by Councillor Jeff Bell. It is on the floor for discussion. Will anyone like else not to make. Have any questions for the building department or the planning department? Seeing none, I call the question.
One more thing, can I get a recorded vote, please?
A recorded vote?
Sure. So I will take over the calling of the vote.
Sure.
When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Deputy Mayor Wilhelm,
Yes.
Councillor Markell,
No.
Councillor Corview,
Yes.
Councillor Vaness,
Yes.
Councillor Jeff Bell,
Yes.
Councillor Martin. No. And Mayor, Mayor Orr,
Yes.
that vote is carried.
All right. So thank you, Haley. We'll move to 7.5. Overturn not to be. Okay. So once the resolution is enacted, the chair will adjourn the committee of adjustment to public hearing. Moved by Councillor Vaness, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. All right, we are moving to 7.5. Haley, you have consent application. 2020-25 for Perth Road 169.
Thank you. I'll be presenting consent application B 22-25 for Carolyn.
I'm just gonna, I think Carolyn Baker was going to.
Also, okay, sorry.
I'm just gonna see if we can get her.
She's very good.
Yeah, and then let her
See. It's a, there's something, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I have some wording if you want, like it depends on what your interpretation of minor name is.
I think we're moving on.
Yeah.
We're trying to get Caroline Baker.
Yes, well,
Maybe not to interrupt. Can you hear me? Apologies, I didn't want to interrupt everybody talking. Good morning. I'll mute myself now.
Thank you, Caroline. Haley, that floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you. I'll be presenting consent application B 22-25 for an agricultural related severance located at 2184 Perth Road 163 in the township of Perth South. I have a slideshow.
Haley's.
Do you mind moving to the next slide, please? Thank you. The lands are designated agriculture and natural resource environment in the county official plan. Additionally, the subject lands are zoned agricultural, natural resource environment, and the proposed severed lands are zoned agricultural, commercial, industrial. Next slide, please. The application for consent to sever is to create an agriculture related lot with an existing grain elevator operation. The existing grain operation is proposed to be severed from the subject lands to allow the grain operation to be independent and separately conveyable from the remaining agricultural lands and associated accessory uses. The retained lands will continue to be used for agricultural purposes. The proposed severed lands contain 6 existing silos and 6 proposed silos as per the approved site plan. Additionally, the severed lands contain an existing grain dryer, weight scale, and septic tank. The retained lands contain a single detached dwelling, private well, and septic. In addition to the agricultural lands, the applicants have indicated no changes are proposed to the retained lands and that the agricultural lands will remain in crop production. In addition to the severance, a supporting blanket easement is proposed to ensure continued access and servicing necessary for the operation. The easement will include guy wires structurally supporting existing grain bins, existing hydro service, and an existing gas line. Next slide, please. The grain elevator operation is an agricultural industrial operation that processes farm produced commodities. It can be considered a farm related industrial use, and the grain elevator operation directly supports the agricultural community and does not hinder surrounding agricultural operations. as per section 4.3.2.1 of the PPS. The severance of the subject grain elevator operation is consistent with the PPS as it is an agriculture related use and is of a minimal size required to maintain the operation and accommodate appropriate sewage and water services. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the agriculture-related lot creation policy and prime agricultural areas, the provincial planning statement, and conforms to the farm-related commercial and industrial activities requirements of the County of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent approval being fulfilled. As such, staff recommend that Perth Sub-Council recommend to the Perth County Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the application for severance be supported with the conditions listed with condition 8 removed. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Did Caroline Baker's on? Oh, Councilor Vanessa?
Just a question there, I have this, the sketch here of site. I don't think, yeah, there, at the bottom where it kind of comes out, looks like there's 3 green bins. Are they being removed or they're not? I'm just curious why they're not actually in that zone.
Through the chair, the plan is to remove them. They just had a couple more years of life left, so they wanted to hold on to them and then they will remove them. So they're not part of the operation.
It's fine, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Melham?
I have a couple questions. One is, the logistics, the laneway does not appear to completely go around, so I question how you're going to get trucks in and out without backing up or something. And the other one is, it appears the laneway is going to be shared with the chicken barn. Is there going to be an agreement on title for that shared driveway, or how's that going to work?
Through the chair, I might defer that to the applicant's agent. She may have more to speak on that.
Any further questions for Haley? Otherwise, we'll go to Caroline Baker. Okay, Caroline, if you're online, would you speak to the?
Yes, thank you, and good morning to the committee. I am representing the property owners this morning. Just adding a few quick notes to the presentation. The consent application is, in essence, looking to separate the farm-related business from the farm itself, as they do farm management planning from Ron and Sharon Giesbrecht with their children to allow them to move forward with the grain operation. Certainly, the applicants and myself have reviewed the conditions and have no concerns with those that are proposed by the county, subject to condition 8 being removed as noted. To answer a few of the questions, certainly through the site plan application, the severed lot with the grain operation does have both an in and out entrance for transport trucks. An auto turns was put on the site plan drawing to show that transport trucks can safely navigate in and out of the site while remaining on the severed lands. There is, however, a blanket easement or easements proposed across the severed lands for the purposes of access, such that legal agreements will be registered on title in perpetuity for that shared access to the existing livestock barn on the retained property. So certainly access was a key consideration for both site plan and the consent application. I believe that hopefully that answers your question, but I'd be happy to elaborate further on that. Thank you.
Any other further questions for Caroline? Did you have something to say about section 8?
Oh, condition
8, sorry.
Through the chair, it does not apply to this application. It was added in error, so it just doesn't make sense for the application to be there.
Okay. And I was also gonna ask, I'm just looking for it on the computer, page 241 on the computer, the picture, there, at one point in time, there was some land that was sold to the school. It's just hasn't finished its process yet.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. They went through condition or consent last year. I believe they're working through the conditions at this time, so it hasn't been finalized on our mapping, but it will be shortly.
Thank you. Any other questions for Caroline or for Haley? Councillor Vanessa.
Just one question, Mr. Giesbrecht has been here, it seems like forever coming to our council meetings. Is there a reason this takes so long, and why can't be all done at once? Like, I'm sure he's a nice man, but it just seems things take forever.
Through the chair, it seems that this happened before I had started, and there was, a couple applications to allow for it, so there was some restrictions on MDS that needed to be cleared up, and the way that, county planning does do their circulations, we try to give a equal opportunity to everybody for being able to attend the meeting, so it may just extend the process a bit more, so we don't like to combine a lot of applications either, to make sure that we do give equal opportunity to everybody to attend the meetings.
Okay.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth South Council advise the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth South support application file B 22-25 submitted by Caroline Baker, agent on behalf of Ron and Sharon Giesberg, owners of the lands described as concession West Mitchell Road, Part Lot 5. Municipality known as 2184 Perth Road 163, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated August 2025. So notify, what's that? With the, I even have it written. I don't of condition 8. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, seconded by Councillor Courtney. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Dave. All right, we're moving on to item 8, 8.1, chief building official. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Orr, members of council. My monthly reports before you there. The building department has been very busy. We issued 18 building permits last month. With a combined construction value of just over 2 million and just over 12,000 collective permit fees. As you can see, before the year to date totals are very high and we're in an enviable position for the building department. So right now we have approximately 16 permits waiting to be issued. So we're working through that. Yeah, we're busy, but we're up to the challenge of meeting all our statutory timelines and we seem to be managing that fine. Bylaw enforcement, we're working through one new complaint for the month and no new property standards issues were brought forward. If you have gains, any questions you may have.
Any questions for Martin? Councillor Vanessa.
You mentioned there's a bunch of applications in queue, whatever, they will be dealt with in the proper timeframe, or?
Yes, yeah, we're managing, depending on the type of application it is, like for instance, a house, we have 10 days to provide feedback to the applicant, whether we approve or if we don't approve the application, what our reasons are. So we're working through them and we're getting about our statutory timelines. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Martin, for your report. I have a recommendation that the CBO update report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. And we have another report here, direction for the signed bylaw review.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Orr. Members of council, the building department received a signed permit application last month, and council's direction was for staff to consult neighboring property owners. The applicant has engaged the nearby landowners and no objections were raised. Further to that, the building department has reached out to other municipalities to see what the requirements of their signed bylaws are. And among the respondents, none enforced a setback distance to the settlement areas, only individual residents. Most municipalities require a 65-meter setback. Ours is a 100-meter setback, which the applicant meets to any neighboring properties. The setback requirement they're asking relief for is from the settlement area, which is 1,500 meters. In our sign bylaw, so I'm asking council for direction on that.
What are the wishes of council? Deputy Mayor Wilhelm.
I think Martin's done all that's required, and I think that we should go ahead and approve this request.
Would you like to make that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve the request for relief from setback. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, seconded by Councillor Corby. Any other further discussion? Vote, Councillor Corby.
So the 1,500 meter setback, is that something we should look after later and discuss, because that seems like. That's a mile, isn't it?
Through you, through the mayor, yeah, it's a little more rigid than anybody around us, it seems, I'd be happy to, have a look at the bylaw and bring it back for revisions if that's what council wishes.
All right, the motion is on the floor to relief for this one. So. Carried the vote. All those in favor? Carried. And you could, you need any more direction on that? If you could bring back, at some point.
Sure. As soon as we have time.
I think if we obviously just said yes to this one, if there's more, they're gonna reference it, so we'll have to go back onto our bylaw and refresh it too, so we might be forced to do.
All right,
Okay, great, thank you.
all right, we, 4 to 11, would anybody like to take a small bathroom break? Okay, let's do that, we can come back in 5 minutes. Okay, we're at 8.2, Director of Public Works, Ken, your floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Orr. The report, before you today is, kind of a regular one, for Kirkland Fall Fair. They've got September 6th scheduled this year for the, Kirkland Fall Fair Parade, at 10 AM. And, as part of the request, to close Highway 23 for the parade, the MTO requires, courts out of council to provide support for the parade. And as in past years, the person of Public Works has assisted with some signage and road closure stuff for the parade. If council's still okay with that, that's kind of what's in the report here. Right.
Any questions regarding the parade route? Okay, seeing none, I have the recommendation that the council supports the 2025 Kirkland Fall Fair Parade scheduled for 10 AM on Saturday, September 6th, 2025. And then the clerks be directed to send a letter of support to the Ministry of Transportation. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Corby. All those in favor? Carried. With 8.3, Deputy CEO Treasurer Tracy. The floor is yours.
And that's through railway regulations. Canadian federal legislation.
Thanks. Last one.
Yes.
There's a BM Ross one on here for Smyrna for about 8,000. Is that for the roadway or what's that about?
I believe that one is for the review work they're doing related to Asmus EA through the subdivision. Subdivision agreement.
Okay.
So you get that cost reimbursed back through that agreement.
Okay. Thank you. That's all for me.
Any other questions on the accounts? Councilor Vaness.
Well, just one question here, road 125. This has to do with the culvert, the total is roughly $9,000, and I believe we had an invoice here. Month, or maybe it's 6 weeks ago for the culvert itself around 10,000. Is that roughly what you expected that to cost?
There'd be a few other small invoices for granulars, compactor.
Yeah, that was all.
And that stuff, and then the big cost was the pipe itself and the labor to help put it in, so.
Just curious, did that kind of come in where you thought?
Yeah, I'd probably estimate a little higher than that, cause things went pretty smooth, which you never know.
No, excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, we are now at your report. Darcy, I'm still listening to this.
Yeah, my month through June, July, kind of an updated in front of you. Couple things to note that I'm going to be putting out an RFP for auditing services for the next 5 years. We haven't done one in quite a while. The last one was 2011, I think. We've set up, Ken and I have set up new GLs, so all the drains are now in the accounting system, and we're not using the binder anymore, so Ken can actually see where we're at when we go to do the grants. I'm drafting a cash in lieu of parkland bylaw, so that we are accepting cash in lieu properly going forward, and we are working on reserve and investment policies with senior staff. Did go to a treasurer's forum, and there was quite a few good discussions that I listed on there, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Tracy? Councilor Marco?
Just the last thing, the all anticipated updated on the impact assessment. Was there a discussion on that?
There was, they still have no word. I did put forward a question to the province, though, that most treasurers aren't really concerned about the new assessment, because no matter what, I'm still gonna raise $4 million, right? So it's just gonna be split differently. The only problem I see going forward is housing prices have gone up faster than commercial prices have. So, I'm just wondering if I was asking at the forum whether the province has any indication they're going to change the range of fairness in the protected classes for commercial and industrial, and there was no answer on that either. That would be the only thing I could see as a problem with the new assessments coming on. That if they don't adjust those, then residential will get hit a little harder, but in the grand scheme of things, we're still gonna only raise the budget that we need, right? So we're not gonna double tax rates or anything like that, but.
Thank you.
Good report, thank you. I have a recommendation that the council of the township of Perth South receive the report from the deputy CAO / treasurer titled treasurer June, July 2025 update dated August 5th, 2025 for information. Moved by Councilor Corview, second by Councilor Bethel. All those in favor, carried. Okay, we are at a report for the financial update as of July 31st.
Yes, so the financials up to the end of July are in front of council. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I'd just like to point out, Councilor Vanessa did give me a call. The budget is the year-to-date budget, so the budget is to July, not for the full year, just to clarify, so really what the report is saying is that July is the variance that we should have spent. But as you all know, you split the budget by 12, but every department spends at different times, so they're never gonna be quite accurate.
Deputy Mayor Wellham?
I think if I'm reading this right, transportation is over 200,000 above.
Which
Transportation and admin. Year-to-date actual is 255,000, budget is 26.
That's, if you look down at the vehicle, they're to the good for 329,000. We're starting to allocate vehicles to the different departments, so it's gonna be, it'll work out at the end, but some get expensed, some get credited, so.
So it's not really admin costs.
No, right now it's some of the vehicles
It's
over
total
there,
costs,
yeah,
not
yes.
admin.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Councilor Marco?
Okay, so that probably speaks to the big discrepancy between the ATM at the top, the fourth line down. 341 and then 195 with a difference of 105,000. Is
Sorry,
that the fourth one down on like?
Oh, yes, so that would be the admin in the office, so that would be where we've paid all the insurance, some of the stuff gets paid up front, so that's, it's not gonna even out till the budget goes for the year. So like stuff like insurance, there's some of the investments have not been recorded yet, so just a little bit of everything is just affecting what the July budget would be to do.
Councilor Go?
And the conservation authority, can you speak to that one? That was a pretty third.
That would be the same idea, we have to pay them upfront when they send us their levy for the year, and so of course it won't be even until we get to the end of the year.
Last question. Is there anything, now that you're wrapping your head around, is there anything that you see that is out of whack?
No, we're all kind of working on cleaning up the budget, cleaning up the GLs, and so, yeah, like trying to get these vehicles expensed in the right departments and stuff like that, so at the end of the day, when we get everything done, council can see, when we see that credit back from all the vehicles we've charged out, that's what council, in the grand scheme of things, if we were running perfectly, that's what you should be putting away every year to replace your vehicles, but it's not gonna work out that way, but it shows council what it really costs for you to be running these vehicles. So we're using the MTO charge out rate, is that right, Ken? Is that what you're using the MTO charge out rate?
Yeah, based on the OPS 127,
Yeah.
which is the MTO rates for different folks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Christine, I'm just wondering if, like, are we to expect these then every 2 months or quarterly or?
I'd like to get to the point where they're quarterly, so they're not So the budgets make a little more sense than year to date, because if you do it monthly, you're just, like what you're noticing is everything looks kind of out of whack, so if we do them quarterly, I think. Like better, but it's totally up to council if they want to see them sooner or something.
I certainly appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, I have a recommendation of council of the township of Perth South received it from the deputy CAO, Shaw Strader, entitled July 31st, 2025, financial report dated August 5th, 2025, for information. Moved by Councilor Mark Bell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. We're at the clerk, is that?
Thank you, Mayor. Or the first report is the council remuneration for June. Anyone have any questions?
None. I have a recommendation that the report regarding council payroll, June 2025, be dated August 5th, 2025, including total payroll of $6,760.60 be approved. Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried.
And just as a reminder, I need your July expenses as of today, so we can payroll. No. So my second report is a section 4 drain petition request that has been received from Tammy and Henry Fluttert. In my report, I've noted that there is an abutting drain that Dietrich's has done some work on over the last couple of years. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Anybody have any questions regarding the section 4 drain petition request? Councilor Vanessa.
Do you have time frame when they like this done?
They haven't indicated this.
Any further questions? Councilor Corbin?
So are we appointing a drainage engineer right now?
If you accept the petition, so this is, a lot of our petitions are section 78, which is maintenance or improvement of an existing drain. This is a new drain, so the process is a little bit different, but if council is okay with going forward with this drain, then we appoint the drainage engineer and we send off the information to Upper Thames for the section 78. We send it to the Upper Thames first for their comments. For this one, we have to actually have council agree to have it in the drain, so.
It looks like the Dietrich Engineering has done the work close to it, so we may consider them. Councilor Vanessa.
I would like to appoint Street and Associates.
That's right. Okay. So can I, no other discussion on that? All right, I have a recommendation that the council considers the drain petition request received from Henry and Tammy Fluttert, and that the council proceeds with the petition. And further, the council appoints Sprigg and Associates to prepare a report on the proposed drainage works. Moved by Councilor Vanessa, second by Councilor Corview. All those in favor? Carried.
And my next report is for another section 4. Scott's been busy talking to landowners, so this is for a improvement for drainage here in the village for property owner here on the corner. And if council has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Actually, Ken would be happier to answer them, I think. Let me go get Scott.
Councilor Martin.
So it appears that this runs, the continues the one that's there up to the road that runs sort of across the soccer field. So will that be enclosed in that portion? You know?
Yeah, I can answer a little bit. So there, that is not a municipal drain right now. So the municipal drain is across the back. It's called the St. Paul's. And so Scott's got a little ahead of himself with that map, because normally it's gonna be the engineer who determines where the outlet goes. So Scott's kind of
recommending something that, for the engineer to consider. To connect it to an existing private drain, I'll call it, along the soccer fields. If council wants the engineer to investigate in closing that. That would be a good thing to request. Cause normally they'll just do improvements based on what they would find at a site meeting from landowners. So as a landowner, if we're interested in closing the rest of that, I could pass that on to the engineer. As it's our property. Or partially, we grant part of it. One side can give us this.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to look at, like, costs of enclosing it by putting it here or moving it to the other side of the soccer field and moving it open. Can you do that? It cuts up the property, I'm not sure, but just, being cognizant of the fact that those are soccer fields with young kids. A lot of really young kids in the front for sure.
Any other questions? Councilor Kerwin?
I agree with Jamie. I think it should be enclosed. I'm gonna say the soccer field, because the soccer fields come right up to the cornfield there, like that's right against the cornfield, so. Leaving it where it is probably is okay, but it should be enclosed, I think.
Councilor Jeff?
Yeah, I agree as well. Was there not some tile work done there last fall? Or was that, at the backside?
Oh, as part of the development of those lots, as part of the planning stuff, there was a requirement for them to. Basically, they had to do intercept all the tiles that would come through that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the field tiles were cut off basically, and rewrote it around. Into that, there's catch basin there, but it's not a municipal drain, it's just a private drainage system.
Thank you.
Council like to recommend who they'd like to, prepare the report for this too? Councilor Marco?
I would recommend Spirit Associates.
All right, so I have the recommendation in front of me. If there's not any questions, if council considers the drain petition request received from Dan and Albert Green and the council proceeds with the petition. And further, that council reports Spirit and Associates prepare a report on the proposed drainage works moved by Councilor Mark Bell. Second by Deputy Mayor Wilson. All those in favor? Carried. Did I need to put it in the recommendation that we necessarily drain?
I think that would come further.
Well, I think might be beneficial to have it now.
Oh, okay.
And then I can provide that direction to the engineer and they'll base the costs on that and come back to the council for a document report then with that included.
Someone like to make that a motion? Councilor Jeff Bell. Motion that the drain is a closed drain. Second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, on the tile drain loan recommendation of the township of, for the water. Do you need to speak to that, was that? Or he was talking about that one?
It's just a standard application for a tile drain loan. It's, again, we act as the, sort of the banking. We do the admin, we give it to the province, they give us the money, we give it to the landowner.
Any questions about that? So I have a recommendation that the township of Perth do hereby accept the application for the tile drainage loan containing fluttered in the amount of $50,000, subject to the minister's approval of the loan interest rate and the loan limit pursuant to the tile drain loan program. Moved by Councilor Vanessa, second by Councilor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. 8.5 CAO Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. I just have one report on the agenda tonight, and this is a report that I know Rebecca was hoping to bring forward based on her evaluation of the capacity of the treasury, but she didn't have time. And so once Tracy got on board, we certainly evaluated the capacity of the treasury to address all of the things that are assigned to the treasury and all of the expectations of council. At the moment, the treasury has very little capacity to do any forward planning, to do any evaluations of the systems that might be on horizon. One example, we've been working on advancing the HR platform, which is part of the strategic plan. We just haven't had the capacity to drill down and actually evaluate effectively what platform would work for us. That's just one example. I think Tracy has done a good job getting her arms around all the things within the treasury. But certainly the demands of the water systems and the financial plans for them, as well as asset management and procurement, are all new expectations laid out in legislation over the last 3 or 4 years. And there's been no additional capacity added to the treasury to respond to those requirements. I've explained in the report some of the rationale for why this single person model doesn't meet the needs of the organization, and certainly doesn't meet the expectations of council in terms of productivity. The expectations over time are that we'll create some succession planning. Back in, I think it was March, we had some discussion about staffing generally, and the age cohort that we have as a team, which is rapidly approaching retirement, and the lack of succession planning anywhere in our administration, which is not something that I would like to see, and is my responsibility to bring to your attention. It certainly fits with strategic priority 4, which is service excellence, which allows us to continue to advance strong governance and efficient service delivery, and allows us to make some proactive management strategies, and most importantly, helps us to address our compliance obligations. Certainly in areas of grants, we have very little capacity to pursue grants in order to fund any potential municipal infrastructure that might fit within grants that are available. And then if we are successful, the reporting requirement of grants is also quite significant and takes a lot of time. So part of the reason we don't do that is because we don't have the time to apply for them, and we don't have the time to comply with the reporting requirements. So it's a bit of a double whammy. If there's any interest in seeing us try to acquire more funding for municipal projects, this role would certainly support that initiative, along with things like tile loans and assist with the audits, and most definitely asset management. Asset management is one of those things, those invisible things that it's hard to explain how much time it takes to account for every single asset that this organization owns and operates and is required to replace and life cycle. You're going to see a real snapshot of what that means when we bring the building condition assessments to you in the probably next month. When every single one of our buildings, the conditions of them are assessed, and when the realization comes that we're not fully life cycle funding all of our buildings, I think it will be a surprise. But this is Tracy's department. This is a position that I report Tracy. So go ahead.
I was just gonna, on what Fred's saying, you guys have been paying for the citywide asset management software for I don't know how long, and it's not being used to its full capacity. Like, I've used it in other municipalities, and if we were using it properly, like, it should be spitting out our long-term financial plan, it should be spitting out our budget, those kind of things. So just kind of backing up what Fred's saying, that the asset management is a big piece, but it's certainly, if it's used properly, it's a great tool for council to be using to plan the future of the municipality.
So the way we would like to use the software that we already own would be any time we're doing any work on an asset that is within the system. For example, if it's this road here, this road is an asset, we would issue a work order that work order would find its way through the system to Ken's team. They would complete it, they would submit it, and that asset would then be inventoried in the way that any product is inventoried in any corporate organization. We currently don't do that because we don't have the ability to deploy that software. But that's just one example of one of the efficiencies, ironically, that we can't actually realize because we don't have the horsepower. And again, this is something that I recognized very early on in my time here, that our treasurer was on the resource. As I say, it's my responsibility to bring it to your attention because it has implications for institutional risk and compliance pieces as well as succession planning. So I brought it to you with the recommendation that this position be created. If you give approval to go ahead, I don't see us having anybody in the building before October. So I think we can fund the last part of the year through existing budgets, and then we would bring forward this salary as part of 2026 to fund it then. Happy to answer any questions unless Tracy has anything she wants to add.
Councillor Cardew?
You answered the starting date. The other thing is where will this person sit?
Yeah, we'll manage that as part of the reallocation space. We're not concerned at all that we won't be able to reallocate that.
Councillor Martin?
So I have a few questions. First, when you're speaking of hiring somebody, would that again be contracting out that service, and what cost would that be?
In terms of recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would propose to do that. It's typically a percentage of the salary.
So somewhere around 40,000-ish.
I don't think it would be that high. This salary would not be as high as the previous salary, so I think it would be less than 20 or something like that.
Also, has staff investigated, we used to bring in co-op students as part of our sort of our service to the industry and help build experience in municipalities. Was that examined as an option?
No, just because those processes take an investment of time that we haven't been able to free up.
And did we investigate a part-time person and whether they could help relieve some of the burden without being another full-time role?
No, my view, maybe Tracy's got a different view, I don't believe we would find a part-time person with this skill set. Certainly not as far as someone who would contribute to our succession planning model. If we found someone with that skill set, it would be a retired treasurer, which would not meet our needs in terms of succession planning.
Councillor Martel?
So I remember, and I think you mentioned it, maybe it was back in March, time flies. I asked about this. I think we were maybe talking about our reallocation of our office. You indicated that you can't see anything happening in that regard. I think I was maybe referencing Sebringville. You thought it would be more public works. Am I just out of the loop when I read this? This seems like this has been happening. This just come up. I don't know. That's what you indicated. I just don't know what.
If I recall the direction, the discussion was going back then was related to Sebringville, that there would be need for some additional capacity when Sebringville comes online. For example, I would recommend that all of those users in Sebringville be metered for water and wastewater. We don't have any capacity here to do that. We don't have any capacity to read meters, to bill meters, to collect money. So that's something that we will need to come to terms with. However, those will all be funded by the system. So all of those public works water systems are required by legislation to be self-funded, just like the system here in St. Paul. So you don't see any contributions to those systems from the broader tax base because they'll be self-funding. It doesn't mean we can avoid front-ending those costs. We do have to hire people, or at least in my expectation, maybe a whole person that might also be something we could contract out, but that was my recollection of the discussion, Councillor Bell, was related to Sebringville. We don't have a lot of, need at the moment for additional capacity here now that we've got recreation addressed. And this, piece in the treasury, the only, piece that I can see coming forward, perhaps as part of 26 is contracting out by law enforcement. To get that off of Martin's plate so that he can focus on, building and planning, but, I don't see the need for an additional full-time position. I could see us looking for a contract perhaps to help, Lizette launch a document management system, but we have to issue an RFP first. But I see that as potentially being, potentially a co-op student if we can organize ourselves, but more likely a contract position.
Thank you.
Councillor Kirby.
So, the way I see it, if a new person comes in and it frees up time for issuing or trying to get more grants to help us out, in a way it'll pay for itself at some, at some point, it helps pay for it, but if we're not submitting grants, I see a problem there, and if this will help, I'm for it for sure.
Oh, now, which one would like to go first? Councillor Jeff Bell?
Okay, so you kind of hit a few things here, you know. It worries me that we're in a position where you're saying this person's going to ensure compliance. So, I think obviously it's becoming obvious just through this discussion that we, at least, that we do need some support. And, when we're talking compliance, that's a big deal. And I think grant funding, is really gonna help us as well, so. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Councillor Vanessa, did you have a question?
Just a couple of quick, can this position be contracted?
Well, it needs to be contracted out. I think the question is, would we get a response to a potential contract that would reflect this skill set? I can't really predict that. But a contracted position would not address our succession planning problem.
I guess my other question is, or concern is, I wish these appointments would come up at budget time, or like, do we have a plan for the next 5 years, what we may need for staff? Like it says in here that, through efficiencies, we can fund it this year, but I mean, if we have that much money for efficiencies, shouldn't that be going back to the taxpayer? That's my concern.
That's a good question. We have some efficiencies this year because we didn't hire someone to run this pavilion. So those are that's the efficiency that I've identified that would support this salary probably for November and December. We could have brought it forward at budget, but Tracy had just arrived, just getting her feet under her. I thought that was probably enough of an ask.
No, and I'm not that I'm critical, but I guess I'm looking more at, we're looking at a person, do we need one next year and the year after? Is there a possibility of having like a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan saying, we think we may be short of staff in this area, whether it's public works or somewhere else? I'm wondering if we could have that first time, just a comment.
I think as far as the staffing vision is concerned, I've laid it out. I'm happy to put that in a report and a piece of paper if you wish. But I don't think it's gonna change much from what I've just shared in response to Councillor Bell's question. There's not, so staffing levels are all driven by the level of service that the council wants to provide the community. And we are trying to meet the expectations that the council has created with the level of service that the council has promised to the community. You have no idea how many people in this room are supporting the pool. We've only hired one person to deal with the pool. we could probably use 3. So that's also taking time away from this team, to meet the level of service that the council has promised to the community. If the council wants to provide more service to the community, then you will see me back here asking for more people, because that's what it takes to deliver services. So, I don't see, the need for additional staff in the next 3 to 5 years that I haven't just identified. Unless the council wants to offer more services. So as an example, we've had people here talking about the Arboretum. Do you want to have more service at the Arboretum for the public? Do you want to offer, just as an example, or do you want to offer guided tours? Do you want to have someone there to offer people more information when they go? Do you want to have a pavilion there? That's certainly what that group was talking about. That's not something that's within the resources that we currently have, and it's not the direction that we have from council. But if there's a new council and they decide they want something bigger there, then we'll have to respond to that plan and help the council get there. But based on the current service levels, yeah, we could use another person at the pool. You know, most organizations that have an outdoor pool have someone that runs the plant, right? Chemistry, the pumping, the water levels, all of that business. And, you know, the person who's doing that is Kent, along with all of his other public works work. So, yes, we are still, you know, working long hours, trying to meet council's expectations. But other than this position, we're not yet in a spot where we can justify hiring another person. In my opinion.
Some of the reasons we put forward here are due to more compliance issues with the provincial government. There's the time come that we have Matthew Ray in and say enough bullshit, enough rules, and I understand it won't go any further than that, it's irrelevant to the province, but I mean, municipalities continually accept the province saying we have to do this, we have to do this, I have to do this, and there's no concern for the taxpayer at all. I mean, they've downloaded all sorts of stuff for the province, whether it's the Liberals, the NDP, or the PCs, they all look good, while the local municipalities get shit on. I mean, all the money comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, right? And I'm just wondering if that conversation should be had, that enough is enough. And I realize Perth South has no pull whatsoever, but there comes a point.
Well, I mean, we have pull in numbers, so Association of Municipalities of Ontario definitely lobbies provincial government to try and eliminate the regulation that we are routinely required to comply with. And go back to asset management, you know, there's all kinds of regulations and deadlines and compliance pieces that we have to meet. You know, you'll see probably on the next accounts that we've had to contract out the development of financial plans related to water services, because it's as part of the compliance piece, that's what's necessary. You know, the building condition assessments, those are all compliance pieces. Those are, you know, those 2 items right there are probably $60,000. So AMO is the lobby group that lobbies the provincial government to try and make it more affordable for municipalities to deliver services. You know, would it be necessary to get Matthew Ray's here? I can't say it wouldn't be. I mean, saying nothing is not productive. So if that's something that you think would be worthwhile, I wouldn't discount that.
Thank you. I'm critical of the process, I am not critical of staff. There's a difference.
So just so if I can also comment, like some of the things that Fred was putting in there for compliance is like. The FIR is actually due May 31st, and I don't think that's ever been done here. I mean, we're doing year end in December, so that kind of stuff, you know, they're gonna cut off your OMP funding if we don't start. And then also, we're
Explain the FIR.
a financial information return. It's done after the financial statements that have been audited. It's something that you have to give to the ministry every year. You know, Ken and I were working on stuff that hadn't been done, like the gas tax. You get gas tax, you have to report on it. Ken and I did that on Friday for, and the OSIP funding also has to be reported. It's all stuff that gets put on the back burner because you're trying to do the budget, you're trying to do the payroll, you're trying to do the AR, you're trying to do the taxes. So it's a lot for one person to be the payroll clerk, the AP clerk, the water clerk, tax clerk, I think, and that's all that Fred's trying to say. It's like, and then it's when I get hit by a tractor or a food truck, as Fred likes to put it, then everything comes to a halt again. It can't be on one person. And, you know, this person will take a lot of stuff off Lizette's plate, Ken's plate, like right now Ken's doing the drain grants, which, you know, will come back to treasury, and a few other things that will come off their plate, so they can, you know, maybe Ken can start at 7:30 in the morning instead of 7, I don't know. So,
Mr. Martin, did you have a question?
I was just wondering if the front of the house staff, are they all working at the top of their scope? Is there any opportunities to upskill some of our existing?
So we have one front of the house staff. That's what you're talking
Like it?
about? So Leyland is really the primary counter person there.
Okay.
He's also the tax clerk.
Mhm.
He's also the payroll clerk,
Mhm. So he's working at the top of his scope.
I would say so. And we've also trained him, we've also sent him to a drainage course, so that he might be able to step in if necessary to support some drains. So education is a reasonable expense when you're potentially thinking of how can we better use this person, but, yes, I think, I mean, you know, fortunately, he's a strong learner, he's a good customer service person, and he's eager to learn. So, you know, those are things you can't teach people. But yes, I would say that we're certainly trying to get everything out of Leyland that we can.
And then just quickly, you talk about the savings from not opening the pavilion, does it operate at a significant loss each year?
I would say we probably don't sell enough ring pops to cover that salary.
I was just wondering if there
So I would say
was like big, at some point, do we look at not offering that service, which is no longer offered at most rural.
I would second that motion if that's.
So I just want to speak a little more to that position. So not only do they sell product, but they're here to like help the baseball teams and make sure that the fields are great. So they have more than just that kind of part as part of their job, but they also help clean. So we've had to reallocate those pieces of that job. So Ruth has been helping out. Ken and his staff have been helping out. So this is what we, like, we may not have that, the piece that everybody thinks, oh, we're not selling ring pops, but there are other pieces of that job that have had to be spread out, because it still needs to be done to run the rec programs, so. And
Yeah, so if I met your worship, so that position would also line the fields before baseball, they would bring the bases out, they would run the tractor and level out the fields, so Adam is doing that piece from Public Works, Ruth has stepped up to the cleaning piece, so we're cobbling it together, but everybody's cross training.
Councilor Carter.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Fred's recommendation and move this forward.
Sure, I have actually a long recommendation already, and if you agree to it, then we'll go to the council. Recommendation that the position of the deputy treasurer asset management coordinator be created, and that the attached job description and salary range be approved, and that the salary, if any, in 2025 be funded through the current savings, and that the salary be funded through the inclusion of the 2026 budget. Moved by Councilor Corby, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. Any more discussion on this? All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? It has passed. All right, we're moving on to correspondence. Anything was that?
nothing in addition to what was already on the consent agenda.
Okay. Council reports. Who would like to say?
Go ahead. We can quickly report on the St. Paul's Athletic Association, successful family finding. They wanted to pass on a thank you to the Optimists and to Councillor Val who ran French fries. And helped with the funding of that, and and the community really stepped up. They also just last week had a celebration here to honor the volunteers. The volunteers put this on. We have a really strong group there, but they've been in it a long time, so. They are hoping it's not as easy to recruit new volunteers now, that they can move more of the registration stuff towards our recreation manager. And they're hopeful that maybe Cassie can take on more next year, so we can use the volunteers more in the volunteer time in the evening hours and such like that, so. Yeah, they're hoping and looking at that for next season. Yeah, and that's it for me.
What's it, Jeff?
Well, as Councilor Martin alluded to, I had a lot of fun moving fries from the fryers over here, dodging traffic. It was a really great day. We need to buy more fries next time. We're gonna go for more cases. But no, it was a lot of fun. Great community day. Not for it, please.
Councillor Vanessa,
Nothing to report.
Councillor Kirby.
One question for Ken, it was brought up with Ontario Clean Water about the St. Paul's well. Can you comment on where we are in that process?
Yeah, I'm working on revising the tender so we can get that back out for the well replacement here in St. Paul's. That was included in the budget. So
Yeah, it sounds like there's lots of issues with that one, or could be issues the way they.
Yeah, well, I am probably concerned about the one in Seabreeville, I think as well. So he wants to do some camera work and investigating it, which is one of the things they tend to want to do every 5 to 10 years. And it was over 5 years ago, I think it was done last. So it's been involved to do that. Well, you gotta take the well offline because we only have one. So you gotta have supply feed, like basically a tanker truck. Take the well offline, do that camera work, investigate it. Put it back, so yeah, it's a bit of a process, so, yeah.
Just a question, Ken, do you know the age of the well in Sebring? Offhand?
I know the one in St. Paul's here is around 73. The one in Seabreeville is original to the subdivision, which I'm thinking it was the 80s.
Maybe at some point, we've talked about it before, but. It just seems like most municipalities have metered water. Which, what you use, you pay for it, right? Maybe that's a discussion later on.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the new stuff that comes along in Seabreeville. I think that quantity of users especially is gonna help. Because there's a cost to installing meters and reading them and billing for them and everything. A small system in St. Paul's, you gotta. It's way worth whether the cost of doing that is worth the adjustment in who's paying how much a little bit. There's always gonna be a base fee that, even if you hardly use any water, you still gotta pay. For the pipes and it'll be there for you, so.
Yeah, we've had issues in Seabreeville before where it's placed in July and August because of lawns and pools.
And and it's a conservation measure, somewhat, that yeah.
Other than that,
I had the pleasure of doing a leadership training program through the chamber with our board. It was a great day. And it helped with a lot of things, getting together with our board outside of the 1 hour a month that we meet. So it was good and I was happy to attend. So that's been awesome.
I attended the Lucanville Fire Review Committee meeting and it's progressing slowly, so I don't know when they'll have a report to their council and copies to herself. It is progressing slowly, that's it.
I'd like to state that the family fun night for the Kirkton pool did get rescheduled, not because of weather, it just seemed like a lot was on the plate and there were very few volunteers, so we have been back to August 14th. And, speaking of the chamber, they did ask me to sit on a panel in October, which I agreed to with the other mayors, so, that is coming up, I don't know where or when, but I was pleased to be asked. And other than that, just, yeah, phone calls regarding the well, thank you to Pam for bailing me out on a Saturday night, what? So, yeah. I'm happy to do a report for Sebringville if I can update, people that have responded, but, it's ever evolving and, we're still waiting on some reports, so. Okay, seeing nothing else, I have a report regarding mayor's monthly activity for the month of June 2025. They August 5th, 2025, you received for information. Moved by Councilor Gordon, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, all those in favor, carried. We have a bylaw 2025, the recommendation that bylaw 2025 being a bylaw in drainage works known as the Barbie Drain be given third reading and properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Councilor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried. No announcements?
I don't have an announcement, but I should have mentioned before, I just wondered if, we can look at moving the recorded button on our website. Because, when trees were starting to fall the other day in the storm and, when I was on vacation and got a call about the well, I direct people to the reported section of the website. And they have trouble finding me. So I'm wondering if we are up staffing at all, if we can move it so that the reported function shows up earlier in our website, so that it's really easy for people to, for the issues that, I mean. That's just something I'm just wondering about it.
No other announcements, notices of motion, other business, public question period, confirmatory bylaw, that the bylaw 30-2025 being the bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution at Township of First will be given first, second, and third readings, and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second by Councilor Burton. All those in favor? Carried. And I have the recommendation that the meeting does adjourn at 11:50 a.m. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried.